Lives with Eileen. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Life and Curly Cues podcast with me, Eileen. This is the second episode I am recording while COVID-19 is wreaking havoc on all of the world. And it's the second episode where we have another call-in guest. Well, this episode's special because we have two guests, and it's one of the first few times I've had two guests on. And so, yeah, this episode, by the time it's released, hopefully all is good in the world again. Hopefully. But if not, hang in there, everybody. We'll get through this somehow. Today's date that we're recording is March 26th, so who knows what's happening in April when this episode comes out. So just listen on. But I'm going to stop rambling and go ahead and introduce y'all to our lovely guests for today. Today we have Dana and Sarah, who I met while my fun time at Seaworld. And so Dana and Sarah, go ahead and introduce yourselves to the world.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm Sarah. I did meet Eileen while we worked at Seaworld. It was a great time. So let's see. I'm 28, and I'm now an education manager at a museum. Living my best life in this new pandemic world we're in. Dana.
I'm Dana. I'm 22. I'm a middle school teacher. I teach 6th grade social studies, and I'm a first-year teacher right out of the gates of college.
Whoop, whoop. So that's a little bit of them, and we, as you can kind of get a gist, we're all in the education field, which is what brought us together. So we have a lot of related stories, but also very different stories, and hopefully we'll be able to dive into those today on this episode. But let's go ahead and kick it all off with ladies, what is the moment or a moment where you felt like, oh shit, I'm an adult now? And whichever one of y'all wants to go first. I can't even talk. Go first.
I'm still waiting for that moment to hit me. To be honest, lies. No, I'm just kidding. I've been thinking about this for a few days since we were talking about doing the podcast, but I think there's like so many different answers, because I remember right after I turned 18, like the wanting to feel like an adult just because of the age, and like my parents didn't change. I didn't change. Like nothing really drastically changed. I think the first time I felt like independent and as an adult was when I went to work at SeaWorld for the first time, because my family and I lived in Nevada, and so I came to Texas to do that by myself, like applying for the real like job out of state, going through all these interviews, and that made me feel pretty old and grown up at the time. That was the first time. Yeah. What was your first time?
That was my first time. I would say it was supposed to be college because, I went to Texas Tech, woo-woo. But I would not say, because I relied very heavily on my parents financially. And so I would always call them. I would call my sister to bail me out of things. So, no, I was not an adult in college quite yet. But I would definitely say the very first time I had to file for insurance or get insurance. Jesus Christ.
Okay.
That is the hardest thing in my... I don't know. I didn't understand half of it. I was like, cool. This is how much I have to pay. And every time I show up to a doctor's appointment, they tell me something new. And I'm like, all right, great. That's great. Yeah.
Health insurance.
Health insurance is really just a whole nother my goodness.
It's its own beast. I know absolutely zero still. I would say, the only reason I say it made me feel like I was an adult because I literally tried to ask my parents what to do, and they were like, I don't even know. Welcome to it. Then my mother's words were, welcome to adulthood, and I was like, thanks. I appreciate it.
I love how that's very just like straightforward. Like, a lot of people have memories of the first moment where they thought they were adulting, but hearing your parents say, yep, welcome to adulthood is kind of just a very definitive, just,
oh yeah,
not fun realization.
I remember when Sarah and I started dating through SeaWorld, and when we decided living far wasn't working anymore, I decided to move to Texas and finish my last semester of college student teaching here. And we were talking about money, and because student teaching doesn't pay, like how everything was going to work, and we had decided, if I lived at home, my parents would have still been paying for most of my stuff, so we were going to ask them if they would give me, like, an adult allowance of sorts. And we were like, it's really a long shot, but we might as well ask. And I was like, hey, Mom and Dad, like $100 a month, because I would spend way more than that if I lived here.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, you're moving. That's your choice. And that's kind of when I was like, all right, time to become financially independent and in debt.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really sad how a key factor in realizing you're an adult is realizing how in debt you can be just by anything, really, like credit cards, student loans, a car payment, health insurance. Like, it's crazy how much money kind of adds into that equation of being an adult.
Yeah, yes. Oh, yes. I love money, but I hate it. My student loan is... That's what I probably should have said is when I first realized I was an adult and I had to pay. I couldn't continuously defer my student loans anymore. When I ran out of that 3 years of deferring, like they were like, okay, now you actually have to start paying. I was like, God, why? And so I started paying. But you know what? Thank you, coronavirus, because now I don't have to pay for the next 2 months.
Yes, I just submitted my application for that, and I'm waiting to hear back from my loan service. So,
I mean, I still haven't heard, but they told me they're doing it for everybody, so
yeah.
I'm like, well, thank you.
Yeah.
I have no interest.
Oh, my
so
goodness.
That's I'm happy.
Okay.
Money is with tea.
It's insane. Okay, based off of your kind of adulting stories, I have one question. Well, actually, I have multiple questions, but we're going to start with this one question. Dana, what led you to go from Nevada to Texas, like applying to SeaWorld and kind of making that first big move over here?
So it's a long backstory, but I was one of the kids, like, lifelong SeaWorld camper and that kind of thing. I found SeaWorld in the first place from a TV show that they used to do way back in the day about SeaWorld camp. And this was in, like, 6th grade, and I told my parents I wanted to go. So they said, I was like, I'll save up all the money, and then can I go? And they were like, well, yeah, of course. So I saved for 2 years, like, babysitting and doing odd jobs for people. And that made me, at the time, feel, like, super secure with my ability to deal with money. Mm-hmm. And those skills have dwindled since then. But doing that, saving up the money, and then finding out that instead of working with animals, I really wanted to work with kids during one of the camps I did. So I applied. I actually applied to SeaWorld in Orlando and got that job first.
Okay.
But the biggest difference between Orlando and San Antonio at the time was that Orlando doesn't provide any housing. Just like the structure of their education department was different. So they couldn't promise that you'd have anywhere to stay. You had to, like, pay for an apartment, and like 19-year-old me was not ready for that. It was too scary and just like thinking about that. So I was looking at other options, and I luckily got the job at SeaWorld San Antonio in the middle of April, and that like made me want to come to Texas instead of Orlando. So that was what led me here in the first place.
Okay. Nice. I think I remember you mentioning like you did it a lot as a child. And so that started to come back to me. Okay. Good to know. All right. And Sarah, what kind of brought you to SeaWorld? Because I know, I mean, the listeners don't know this, but I know you kind of went to college for something different. And so how did you end up at SeaWorld or in the education field?
Yeah. Well, I ended up at, my degree is in exercise science. So what I was trying to do, I couldn't figure out a job. I wanted to do physical therapy, but then I just didn't want to go to any more school. Like, I knew I wasn't mature enough to, go back to school to be a physical therapist. I just wasn't in the mindset And so I was like, well, let's do, education. So I was substitute teaching for a while. And since substitute teaching is only during the school year, I had nothing to do. So I was like, well, what can I do? And I was like looking at summer jobs, and I don't even know how, but it just popped up as like, and I don't know, fate. I don't even know. I just looked at Seaworld, and one of the first jobs was that I, was interested was Seaworld camp counselor, and I was real hesitant to apply because I was like, well, I've never really, done camp. I don't know what it's about, and I really hadn't worked with a lot of young kids, and I was applying for day camp, so day camp was nothing but young kids.
Yeah.
And so I literally applied while I was subbing at a high school. So that's why I was like, well, maybe not. And so I was like, well, we'll just give it a try, and then I just, I applied for, I don't even remember what else I applied for. I think I applied because my very first job was Six Flags. I worked retail in the two stores, the front ones, the Looney Tunes or whatever.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and then the Mercado. Whatever. So I worked in those my very first job, and I was like, maybe I'll just go back and do that for the summer just for fun. But then SeaWorld called me and did my interview, and I was like, hey, well, let's do this, because it was fun. I mean, I was glad. I'm glad I did it. That's for obviously. Cause
Yeah.
I'm a Dana.
That's kind of where y'all started. So.
Yeah, she also ran away from me. She I mean, that's where. I mean, I'm glad I went to SeaWorld. And then I think because of SeaWorld, my whole perspective on life changed, and I wanted to do predominantly education from that point on.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of had the same feeling from SeaWorld where, my whole view changed, and I kind of leaned more towards environmental education and all that stuff. So I can relate on that one. Okay. What are some odd jobs y'all have had in the past? And they could be funny moments from those jobs too, and anything like that. I'm very curious to hear these types of stories from people.
Well, so my dad used to own a furniture installation company, and I don't even think I was legally allowed to work. I don't even know how old I was. But I think I was 14. And he wouldn't I would never be on his pay, whatever, but I would go and help him at these little small, tiny offices that he would do. Well, one time he was like, hey, we're going to go to some weird city in Texas that starts with a B. I don't even know what it was called because everything in Texas, there's 20,000 cities. And so I was like, cool. And I said, what are we going to do? He was like, oh, we're going to install some stools. And I was like, cool. And we're going over, we're driving, and then I start noticing that it was a courthouse. And I was like, oh, this is cool. We're going to install furniture at whatever, this small town's courthouse, in somebody's office. No, we installed stools where the prisoners have to talk to their lawyers before they go into court. It's you see on TV, you see those little windows.
Yeah.
Where they're talking to people through the phone. That's what it was.
Oh,
wow. We were on the prisoner's side.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, what? And so we were just drilling them in the house. I told my dad, I was like, Dad, did you take me here because you don't want me to go to prison? He was like, no, I just really needed somebody. But he was like, sure, this is what you have to deal with. And he showed me the toilet and everything, and I was like, ew, gross. Gross. I was like, I don't want to go to prison. I'm okay. I was like, this may just be, if this is just the courthouse, can no one imagine what the prison is like? But that was the oddest job I did as a kid. And then I didn't really have any other odd jobs since then. When I was in college, I worked at their basketball arena.
Uh-huh.
And you would have to sign up online for the job, and I've literally worked there twice. And they had to wear the same T-shirt. You had to turn in your T-shirt.
Oh, wow.
at the end of every single day, or not day, event that you worked.
Uh-huh.
But it would be like, they would wash them, and then someone else could be using that t-shirt the next day, you know, whatever. And I was like, this is weird. And I was like, I'm just sharing shirts with all these people, and at the school and everything. But, I mean, that was probably, like, it wasn't that weird. I just also never really went. Like, I signed up to work all this stuff, and I was like, I don't want to go. I'm just going to stop signing up.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting. Those are some odd jobs you got there.
Yeah.
What about you, Dana?
My very first job that I remember, it was because of SeaWorld that I started doing all this weird stuff. So I was probably like 11 or 12. My neighbor friend and I made all these posters and posted them on everybody's door that we were going to walk or wash people's dogs for like a certain amount of money, whatever. I think we had like 2 takers, and we were washing their dogs in my friend's like bathtub and making a huge mess because we were like in elementary school. And before her parents finally said, you know what, no more washing dogs inside, and it just went downhill from there. So that was my very first job. After that, I did babysitting for a really long time. My very first like official job was working a before and after school program. So that was the job that I held during the school year, and it was a split shift because before and after school.
Oh, yeah.
And I loved it. It was, like, short and sweet and fun. Like, we would just go and play games all day. It was very, like, casual. After that, I really only had the SeaWorld camp counselor jobs, which I did both, like, this resident thing at SeaWorld part, like, a lot of people don't think about it unless they're familiar with that world. Like, SeaWorld actually has dorms for you to stay in. Like, the counselors stay in the same room as the kids. It's like a normal camp would be, but at a theme park.
Yeah, that's something that really caught me off guard when I first applied.
Yeah, even people that work there, we would get questions all the time of, like, wait, you don't have your own space? Like, you stay with the kids? I'm like, well, somebody has to, like, watch them.
Their parents are sending them there for a week. They kind of need to know they're being watched.
Exactly. And then I also did an internship at Disneyland. So I worked in the custodial department, which was very interesting. I have lots of crazy stories from that. Another thing a lot of people wouldn't think about wanting to do or anything, but I really wanted to. I wanted to learn all the secrets and be able to walk everywhere while I was working there, and that was really fun. And then after that, just regular teaching now.
All right. I like how you mentioned Disney. Oop, I just bumped my mic. I like how you mentioned Disney because I literally just wrote down, let's talk Disney, because I know we're all Disney fans here. And when I had Ariel on an episode, we also did a little section where we talked about Disney. So I just feel like it's natural that I have to talk about Disney with y'all. So let's go with, what is your earliest memory of just like the Disney universe?
Ooh. Oh, God, I don't know.
I remember... Well, my family, we used to live in Southern California, so we were only a few hours away from the California Disney park.
Ooh, that's awesome.
And my grandma is, like, a huge fan, and so for a little while we were trying to make it, like, a family reunion sort of trip where we would all get together every 5 years and go. And we've kind of kept that. I think we missed one right in the middle, but we had a family reunion in 2017 or 2018 all together there again, and that was really fun. But that's my earliest memory of, like, visiting a Disney theme park.
I love that.
Mine was, like, I don't even remember. Oh, wait, I do remember. I went with, I actually only remember the plane ride to there. That was, like, my first plane ride that I could. My sister was picking on me the whole time. Oh, yeah. So my sister used to have a Bart Simpson doll. This is the memory I remember. And Chippendale? They're Disney, right?
Yes,
yeah,
they are.
I forget. I don't know. Yeah. So I wanted to say Alvin and Chipmunks, but I was like, nope, wrong one. I was probably like, oh, God, 6 or 7, and so Emily is probably like 12. She had a Bart Simpson doll, and Chip and Dale grabbed it and threw it over the fence.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. And so, like, there was a picture of my sister. She has the Chip and Dale doll. I'm not Chip and Dale, the Bart Simpson doll. And then she has a picture with Chip and Dale. And then
it's gone.
One without the Bart Simpson
doll.
doll.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So they just took it and threw it over the fence. I'm pretty sure she didn't get it back, I don't think. Or maybe they did. I don't remember. But I just remember that's my earliest remember.
That is
remembering.
Such a funny memory. And the fact that's a memory that's like, it's hard to believe that actually happened.
It is. It's probably the day and age before, before rules actually happened, so they could actually take your stuff from you and throw it up. This was probably like, what? If I was 6, it was probably like 1997, 98, something like that. So, yes, I am old. Not that old. Dana's just, like, staring at me. But that's where a lot of, like, I remember the pictures that have all the high socks from Disney. I wasn't, like, too into Disney until I met Dana, and then, like, I became pretty Disney obsessed. Yeah, it's her fault. I had only ever gone to the Disney World park until Dana, and then I finally went to Disneyland, which is better, by the way.
Is it? Okay.
It is my favorite now.
I've only ever been to Disney World, and up to like this year, I've been to Disney World, I think 3 times. But I've never been as like a legal adult, and I want to go now that I'm legal so that I can partake in alcoholic beverages around the world.
You have to go. But Disneyland doesn't have too much. You have to go. If you do Disneyland, you have to do Disneyland with like Dana, because since she worked there, she knew like all of it. Because I went with the first time. I actually went with Preston. And Anna. I don't think. And so we went, and Dana took us, and she knew everything. Like, we got fat, and then we just went in January, and Dana's like fast pass everything, and she got them, and we were like, how the heck did you get those? She would just like get everything, and I was like, all right, we're good.
All right.
We're good for the day.
All right, then it's official. I'm going to plan one, and we're going.
Great. I'm telling you right now, tickets are super cheap. Thank you, coronavirus. Well,
honestly, yeah, right now.
when they open. Yeah,
when they open. But like right now I'm looking at flights because I have a family quinceañera at the end of May in Orlando. And flights to Orlando are so cheap right now that I'm like, ooh, I need to hop on that.
Yeah. They're like $98 is like the cheapest one I've seen everywhere.
Yeah.
For all of them.
It's crazy. Bob Saget, I had a question. Oh, so my earliest memory of the Disney universe is, of course, like, I grew up watching all the movies on VHS. Like, my whole family is Disney obsessed, so I kind of just grew up Disney obsessed. And then the first time we went to Disney World was in 2005. And that was just a whole experience, because we would go on military rates because they would have like weekly discounts for military. And so we would kind of just go and do that and make a whole trip out of it. And that's how I also like got introduced to Seaworld and all that, because we would go to the Orlando Seaworld every time we would go to Disney World.
Yeah.
So we kind of just did that. Yeah. But I'm very Disney obsessed. I don't think it's a problem. I think it's a great quality to have.
It is. It's nice. I mean, I'm more Harry Potter obsessed, but that's just me.
Harry Potter is pretty great. It is pretty great. I will confess that I only actually read the first book.
Oh my gosh.
I know. I just, me and reading, we just don't get along. We never have.
I mean, same. I will confess that I just listened to them on audiobook because I couldn't. I would fall asleep.
See, I think that's something I have to look into now, just listening to them on audiobook, because I just, yep, me and reading, we're not friends. Nope.
No, worth it.
No. Listen to the audiobooks. I read the first time with my mom. She read them to me from when I was a young child, but I've listened to them and reread them, and it's just, either way is great. It adds more to your appreciation.
Nice. Okay. So we talked to, or you guys mentioned you guys met at SeaWorld and y'all are a beautiful, lovely couple, and y'all are engaged right now. Whoop whoop. And wedding coming soon, which I am super excited about. But I wanted to ask you guys, how has wedding planning been? Like, has there been anything crazy? Has it been kind of chill?
Well, here's some news. The wedding is officially postponed.
I had a feeling that was going to happen eventually.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of friends who are supposed to be getting married this month, next month, and in May that I've all had to postpone theirs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We made the call probably like Monday.
Yeah.
We're trying to get all of our stuff together, but yeah, thank you, coronavirus.
Honestly, Corona is really just ruining everything.
It's just ruining things. Come on, man. So yeah, it's like wedding planning was. Well, just before we hop to the postponement, it was very stressful. It was. If you're not, like, my advice to whenever you get married, if you are not on the same page, don't get your families involved until you're on the same page.
Okay.
Because, like, you need to have everything picked out of what you want before you start making decisions on, you know, what colors you want. Literally, like, we went to David Bridal, and when we were trying to pick the colors, the only way that we could pick the colors was because my best friend was there with us, and she was like, okay, just come together. Like, she was having to, like, peer mediate us.
You know, our poor, like, David's bridal lady was, like, watching us argue, and we went back to pick out something else, like a bridesmaid's dress, and Sarah was like, oh, I remember, you were the one that we finally picked our colors.
Yeah, I was like, hey, we picked them. But, yeah, it's very, like, unless if you are one of those types of, like, when you were a little girl, like, if you had a dream of how you wanted your wedding to be, then I think it would be easier. But, like, if you're like Dana and I, who just really just want, I didn't even picture, like, a big wedding like I wanted one, but I've never, like, my sister used to have, like, books and binders full.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm also, like, 100% on board with thinking that it's easier straight relationships because there's not two girls. And, like, because in a normal wedding, like, you have two colors, but you don't have to figure out, like, two sides, like, are both sides of the girls wearing the same color? Like, is that what you want? Well, then you have to pick, like, two colors that are equal instead of, like, a red and a gray, you know? How, like, I don't know. It was so complicated.
I never thought about that. Yeah. That is a lot more, yeah.
There was a lot of things we didn't think about until we did them, and it's like one of those things where we realized on Monday that, on Tuesday really, that we haven't been really stressed out. And, like, we haven't been, like, there's been, like, there's been, like, little arguments, like the little, like, oh my God, you didn't pick up your dishes because now we're just in, you know, social distancing over here. So we're, like, stuck at home and you find those little nitpicky things. But we haven't been that, like,
we haven't been fighting.
Yeah, and then we realized it was because we're not having to make decisions on the wedding.
Oh, okay.
And there's not, like, a wedding looming over. Like, and don't get me wrong, we're just, like, stupid excited to get married, and I was devastated, and her and I were both devastated when we had to make the call. But the call for postponement was not just for our, you know, safety, but it was like we have family that's all of them are in, most of them are in the vulnerable.
Exactly.
Yeah. And traveling too, since my family, none of my family lives here. Like, my parents were like, we're willing to drive, but it's a 3-day drive. It's not like an easy thing. And then you're facing, like, well, I don't know. It just made more sense to postpone. But before we even got there, like, we've been through so many things. My mom came to visit while I picked out my wedding dress, And she got like this was in February, the beginning of February, so no corona yet. But we were like in the dressing room, and she got this weird call from my dad, and she was being super suspicious about it. And I was wondering like what was going on, and I asked, and she was like, "Don't worry about it." And I was like, "Okay." Well, we leave, like I get my dress and we leave, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, Mom, like our venue, they're having an open house tomorrow, we should go." And she was like, "We can't go. They just they all filed for bankruptcy." That was what the call was about.
Oh my goodness.
So
damn.
That weekend we were like so chill. It was very weird. And then after all the stress of like switching from making actual wedding decisions, like table decorations and dresses and that kind of thing, to finding a brand new venue that still had our wedding date, we were like so overwhelmed. And we found one at the end of the weekend, and it worked out so well. Like they worked with us with paying and everything, but so stressful. And we were one of the lucky ones because my parents are paying for the venue, and they had bought event insurance in case one of the vendors like went out of business, because our vendor isn't giving back any money to any of the couples that have put stuff back because they filed for bankruptcy, so they don't have to.
Damn. Yep, that sounds all too stressful.
That's what it's still, I think once you get to the day, it'll be worth it, but now, like, that finish line keeps moving forward. People don't stop eating bad.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, it's hard to hear that something you guys have been like working towards for years is now just being pushed back further. And goodness gracious, Corona. But at least you guys can kind of have a little like weight off of your shoulders for a little bit, in regards to, just figuring out what's happening next.
Yeah, and I think this whole, like, because the wedding I don't think is going to be until next year now. Mm-hmm. Because our venue that we have now, they're booked the entire, like, they're booked the entire fall.
Oh, wow.
So, and since it's like an outdoor, they have September, but since it's in August, they have August and September, and like most of the summer. But since it's an outdoor venue, it's too hot in Texas. Like, come on.
Oh,
we're back.
Oh, no.
So it'll probably be next year. But like the thing is we have all of the decisions made now. Yeah. So there's nothing like huge that Dana and I have to really worry about.
Yeah, it's a few small things. It's like, it's better this way.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, kind of going into another topic, still kind of relevant because it's relevant to Corona and its craziness. In this time of social distancing, have you guys learned anything new, tried something new, discovered something in your own house or in your own neighborhood, or learned something about your pets? Like, what is something like funny or anything that's kind of come out of you guys social distancing?
So, two big things. We've had, because of the wedding being postponed and because of being inside so much, we've been able to work a lot on our house. Mm-hmm. So we just bought this house in October. It was a new build, so like nothing in it has been painted or done or anything. So we've been able to work in our backyard. We have like a full vegetable garden going.
Oh, fun.
A cute little garden fence all painted now. And we've been able to work on some decorations inside. And then the pets, we just adopted a puppy in November. So she's about 6 months old now, but being home has been like awesome for her potty training and just them not being like bored and locked up all day. It's been really nice.
Yeah. They like us more now. They didn't like us before because we were gone for like 10 hours a day. So then we would come home, and my Stevie, the older dog, she was very grumpy. she wouldn't want to talk to anybody. Not talk.
But like hang out.
Now she still does it. But
no more having accidents in front of your back door.
yeah, she's Ziva the puppy. She's very like, she whines when she has to go to the bathroom, which is perfect. And we also learned a new thing. I guess technically we learned something new. Our Stevie and the puppy, we have a Christmas decoration still up. It's like little jingle bells. That's hanging on the door in the backyard, and the door goes to the backyard, and Stevie will she'll kind of push it so that it kind of hits the door, and then the jingle bells jingle.
Oh.
And so that's us telling her that she needs to go outside. She learned that on her own.
Look at that. All right. Dogs are smart.
She does it. Yeah, sometimes we think, though, she does it just because she just wants to annoy the crap out of us.
Yes, or go fight with the neighbor dog.
Or go fight with the neighbor dog. She's not friendly with the neighbor dog. But it's like, yeah. And then we were able to clean the office, and we found, like, all this stuff. Oh, I found my zombie apocalypse backpack. So I used to be super obsessed with Walking Dead.
Okay.
And when I was in college, and my sister and I used to like watch it all the time, and like we would text each other, and be like, "Oh my god, like did you see that?" Blah blah blah. And one of my birthdays, I want to say it was like my 20th birthday, probably, whatever. She got me a backpack and filled it with like end of the world, zombie apocalypse stuff. Like she got a map of Lubbock and a map of Texas, and she like drew on it and said, "Don't go here." She put like all this, or like, "Go here. You probably want to avoid this area." And then she like put big X's on things, and she even said like, "You probably want to go to Costco to go steal some stuff." And like she put all this, and then like she put Twinkies in there because of Zombieland, where he like is obsessed with Twinkies.
Oh my goodness!
Which we did find the Twinkies, and they were hard as they were hard as a rock.
I thought those weren't supposed to go bad.
Yeah, well, they did.
They weren't moldy; they were just hard.
Yeah, they were right. They weren't moldy; they were like hard as a rock.
Oh.
And like I was like, "Hey, go, Stevie." Just kidding, don't eat it. But yeah, it was like, oh crap! Like it was, and there was a bunch of like first aid kits and stuff, and I was like, this might actually be relevant to today.
Yeah. Oh, look at you! Not even knowing you were planning for times like these.
I know. Good find.
All right. Well, ladies, before we get to the final portion of the podcast, being the mug of questions, do you guys have any questions for me?
Ooh. What's been your biggest, like, so when we worked together and we were talking to you, like, every day, I knew that you wanted to still go into the animal field. What's been your biggest, like, life change since leaving SeaWorld?
Since leaving SeaWorld, my biggest life change has been, like, my change of kind of goal, like, my final goal change in what I want to be doing with my life. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm still trying to figure that out at this moment, but since SeaWorld, it kind of showed me how much I actually like education and kind of teaching children about different aspects of animals and the environment and all that stuff. So rather than kind of going into my initial thought of like, oh, I wanted to do like research and rescue of animals and all that stuff, I'm started to lean towards more, I want to educate kids on like conservation efforts and how to kind of, just protect the world that is slowly crumbling. But that kind of shifted. I saw myself going back to school and kind of doing school like abroad and stuff, and that whole view changed, and now I'm like looking at online degrees for master's programs and kind of just gearing towards environmental education as kind of my final output in life. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at so far. I'm still trying to figure out the rest, but that's definitely something that like Seaworld, that Seaworld changed in me, is even though like I love marine animals and all that stuff, I want to teach people about marine animals versus like actually working with them. And I also think just like the Seaworld like swim test kind of scared me away from like physically working with animals.
Yeah. The Seaworld clickiness scared me away from working there.
The trainer scared me.
Yeah. But I do, and then like after SeaWorld, or at least after like my first like season before extending the season, I got my scuba certification. So I'm scuba certified, but I have not actually dove since I got certified, and I got certified in 2017 and it's already 2020. So, another goal is to like actually start scuba diving and doing stuff, but it's really hard in San Antonio because the only places you can scuba dive are in lakes, and I want to scuba dive in the ocean, which means I have to drive or fly to the ocean to go scuba diving.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, when we go to Disney, we can just scuba diving.
Yeah, we'll just, take a detour to the beach.
Kidding. I'll just watch you. I won't go.
But yeah, like I bought equipment, or I didn't buy all the equipment you need, but I did buy like a wetsuit and all that, a wetsuit and like snorkel gear, and fins.
Well, you gotta go. Use it.
I know. And that's the sad part. And I have like coworkers that are also scuba certified and also have not dove since they got certified. So we've been trying to figure out of going diving together for the past year, and that has yet to happen. So that is another goal since SeaWorld, is just to like actually go scuba diving.
True. I bet you should do it. Do it.
Yeah.
What was mine? Did I have a question? I don't know.
Yeah.
I forget these things. I have short-term memory loss.
Girl, same.
What's my question? Do you know any more questions?
I'm looking Sarah into her soul. I feel like she's just afraid to ask.
No. Dana told me to ask you.
No, I did not. She's just afraid.
Get on with it.
I'm gonna sneeze.
Oh my gosh. I think I know what she's going to ask you. I think she's going to ask what did you think of Sarah as a supervisor?
Wrong.
Well, fine. But that's my new question then while she remembers.
I thought she was a really cool supervisor. Like, I never had supervisors. Well, actually, if I think back to all my jobs before that, I never had supervisors that I actually like wanted to like be friends with. And meeting Sarah and kind of just following her direction, because when I met Sarah, you had like what, a whole season already down? Or yeah. So I felt very comfortable to learn the ropes of SeaWorld from you, and also coming from like you had a background that wasn't like SeaWorld related. I don't know. It was very comforting to have you there. I don't know. I just wanted to be your friend real fast. Like, you were very just approachable.
Oh, look at me. I'm so approachable.
But
I'm
it was
very
fun.
Approachable. I'm just kidding.
It was fun.
That was a good season. That was very stressful on me.
It was fun. And then you are kind of what led me to my current job. So thank you for that, girl.
Right, I did.
Yeah.
How did I? Oh, because I got Ariel and then I got you right after. Ariel got you.
Yeah, well,
you weren't even there when I was there.
No, yeah, I wasn't there when you were there, but then like you had told me about it while we were at SeaWorld, and I was like, never heard of that place. And then when my season was ending at oh my gosh, why do I keep wanting to say everything but SeaWorld? When my season was ending and I had waited too long to apply to a whole bunch of different jobs, you were like in the transition of leaving there, and like your position had been posted, and so I was like, and then I asked you about it, and I was like, I'll apply, and lo and behold, I got the job on my birthday, and it was great.
Oh, look at her. You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you so much.
My husband will draw my question.
You didn't even ask one question.
Because you asked it for me.
Oh, my God.
Do you have one, Sarah?
No.
I'll ask one more then.
Oh.
I don't know. Since we all work with kids, what's your most favorite working with kids memory?
Oh my goodness. Okay. There's a lot of them. I have like really funny ones that stick out, and then I have ones that just like, make my heart melt so much. So one that makes my heart melt so much is when I first started at where I'm at right now. I was like a week into the job, and I was working extended care, so I didn't really meet a lot of the kids, and I did like breaks for the teachers during the day, and so I only met the kids for like 15-minute periods. And like, yeah, it was the first week I started, and no one really knew who I was. The kids were still trying to figure me out. And then one of the students in one of the classes, I barely even saw her because she was not an extended care student. She was only like daytime. I came in, and Erica, her teacher, comes in, and she's like, "Hey, one of my students made this for you." And I was like, "What?" And she shows it to me, and it's like a cut out heart folded up, and it was like, "To Miss Eileen, like, I love you," and there was like little drawings and all that stuff on it, and it was like, "Love so and so," and I was like, oh my goodness, I just met her. I only see her 15 minutes every day. Like, this is so sweet. And so now it's like a little memento in my like little memorabilia jar that I made when I was in college. So that's kind of like a heartfelt moment where it's just like, oh, this is where I'm meant to be right now. And then crazy funny things that stick out to me. One being in SeaWorld. There was a kid that I had in my group when I got moved to the 5-6-year-olds, and Sarah knows this kid. And Sarah kind of warned me about this kid before I got this kid. And then I got the kid. And this kid decided that every bathroom break, he was going to play Frisbee with the little, like, scent. With the little scent things in the urinals. And it never... Yep. It never failed that every time we had a bathroom break, a SeaWorld guest would come out saying, "Hey, one of your kiddos is in there playing Frisbee," and I'd be like, "Oh no." And then I couldn't go into the men's restroom, so I'd have to get a men's, like, our boy counselor to come over and be like, "Yo, can you please go get my children out of the bathroom? They're causing havoc."
I remember that kid.
Yeah, so that's kind of like one of the funniest memories I've had in all my times of working in different realms of education. And then at my current job, it's very funny because my kids keep wanting to marry me off to whichever male employee we get, because our school is predominantly females. Like, right now there's only 2 guys on our staff, and one is an extended care person and one is our bus driver. But when we had our very first bus driver, the kids kept wanting to marry me off to him.
You gotta listen to kids.
Yeah, they're matchmakers.
No. And then recently, like, a lot of kids will come up to me because we've had teachers pregnant in the past, and they'll be like, "Miss Eileen, are you having a baby?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not having a baby." And then be like, "Well, are you gonna have a baby?" And I'm like, "Eventually, yes. Why are you all up in my life?" So it's a lot of like the kids asking me about my relationship status. They're very concerned for what Miss Eileen is, what's going on in Miss Eileen's life.
Just because you get married, man.
My kids right now are like super obsessed with figuring out who Sarah is because they'll occasionally see like her picture or her. Now that we're FaceTiming, we're doing like video calls. She came and helped me show them the dog, and I heard someone go, "Who is that? And who is that? Who's with you?" And one of the other kids goes, "It's her best friend, guys. Now stop.
Oh.
So it's my favorite.
Yep.
I had a nice discussion with kids during spring break camp. We were all sitting at the table, and one of my coworkers, him and I tend to get the "Are you brother and sister?" But this time we got "Are you guys?" Because I had the ring on, and so does he.
Oh.
And so they were like, "Are you guys married?" And so I was like, "God, no." He was like rude, and I said, "Let's be real. I don't want to marry you. I don't like your kind." And the kids were like, "Wait." And then one kid, so these are like 6 to 8 year olds, and I was like, "Oh, they're gonna catch on." I was like, "Nah, they won't catch on. They're too young." Well, one of them was like, "Well, are you married?" And I said, "I'm gonna get married. Yeah." I said, I'm engaged. I have a fiance." And they were like trying to figure out what a fiance was. And then one tells me a story that her dad's friend married a girl, and she's a girl, and she thinks that's super cool. And I was like, "You know what? That is super cool." She goes, "Are you marrying a girl?" And I was like, and then my coworker looks at me and he goes, "Ha!" And he's just laughing. And I was like, "I'm marrying my fiance." "What is the fiance? Is it a boy or a girl?" And I was like, "A fiance." And then I said, "It would be like if you married this." I pointed at one of the other campers, and she goes, "Ew." And I was like, and conversation done.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Children
are funny. Like, children they really speak their minds, and they have no filter, just like we adults also have no filter.
I mean, yeah, they say things I want to say sometimes. That's true.
Gosh.
Okay, well, if you guys have no more questions for me, we're gonna head on into the mug of questions.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So let's go ahead and start with whoever wants to go first.
Dana. Sarah. Okay, I'll go first.
Okay, so Sarah, pick a number between 1 and 4 while I mix the jar.
4.
Okay. Let's see here. Not that question. Not that question. Not that question. This question. Okay. Sarah, your question is, what is your biggest weakness?
Ooh.
Damn, we're getting deep.
Everything. I'm just kidding. I don't know. I got like 2. One that is a professional, one that I use all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm too nice, and I usually pick people over myself, which I don't do as much. Like, I stand up for myself more.
Uh-huh.
But I would still say that, like, in certain cases, I'll pick, like, let's say that you had a, you were going for a job, and I'm going for the same job. I'd be like, "Well, Eileen is really great at this. Like, she's fantastic." And I wouldn't say anything, like, bad or whatever, because that's, like, something that I always feel like, oh, well, that person, deserves it more.
Yeah.
And then, but that's like my professional one. I always say that. I put people's feelings before my own.
Mm-hmm.
But I would definitely say my biggest weakness is my anxiety is my biggest weakness. Like, I am just a worry about everything. And so that's something that, like, really, it stops me from doing a lot of things that I want to do. Like, it gets in my head a lot of, like, me wanting to, like, achieve things. And it's funny because I found out that Dan and I were talking to someone, and they had said, like, oh, they know someone who's super anxious, and they were wondering why this person wasn't anxious during like this whole pandemic or whatever, and their comment was, it's because the outside world finally matches the inside world, and I was like, oh my God, that's
Whoa.
me. Because like I'm only anxious about getting sick, but not about like how freaky the world is right now, how like we're shortage and we're like staying at home. Like I'm like, whatever, you know, like cool, and there's like people like that are our friends and stuff are like freaking out and like, you know, having like panic attacks, like I can't do this, and I'm over here like la 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 la, and I'm like, because the outside world finally matches my inside world, and I'm like, boom, which is really cool because it also made me want to like change my career path eventually because of it. So I was like, dang, now I want to go into more of like a public health, like epidemiology type thing, like to go through stuff like this. Yeah. Because I find this stuff like super interesting, and like these pandemics and everything, and I guess because the outside world matches my inside world.
That is some deep shit right there.
Yeah, man, I was like, whoa. And I like look at Dana, and Dana goes, oh my God, that explains it. And I told one of my coworkers, she's like one of my best friends, and she goes, oh my God, and I was wondering why you weren't panicking. She was like, usually you come to me every 5 seconds and you're like, oh my God, did you see that email? And I'm like, oh my God. She's like, dude, chill out, it's fine. But over here I'm like, yeah, I already heard that, but I'm chill, whatever.
Dang. All right, that's a good answer. Good answer. Yeah. All right, Dana, pick a number between 1 and 4.
2.
All right. Not that question. This question. What is your favorite TV show?
My favorite TV show of all time is Grey's Anatomy.
Okay.
I'm just a classic, but I finally convinced Sarah a few months ago to rewatch Scandal, which is another the same writer that Grey's Anatomy was, Shonda Rhimes. And we're on the last season now because we've been at home so much and able to watch so much TV. But, yeah, I really like her writing. She's great. If you need something to binge watch, I would recommend Scandal. It's only 7 seasons, so.
Yeah, I've actually never seen both of those shows. I've seen clips of Scandal, but, I've never seen both of those.
Scandal's very accurate to our current moment.
It's great. It's a very intense. There's not a lot of comic relief. It's very much a serious, like, drama.
Yeah. Interesting. And when I run out of TV shows, I must look those up. All right. My question is, let's see here. Do I prefer books or movie adaptations? Very relevant to our conversation. I prefer movie adaptations just because, as I mentioned, I do not like to read. I only read if I have to absolutely read. And also, I'm just a visual learner. And seeing it all happen helps me. Even though I know some people get mad at the fact that the movies never really correlate with the books.
It happens.
Yeah. Okay. That's my answer. Okay, for the last question, I need you guys to collectively agree on a number between 1 and 4, and that'll be a question for all of us.
All right, we pick 3.
Okay.
Sarah showed me her fingers, so that'll never be proof.
Okay, 1, 2.
I did not collectively agree.
Too late. The third question has been chosen. Okay. This one's kind of in our futures. And also kind of your thoughts on like how people do it nowadays. But for children, the question is, quote unquote, unique names for a child or more traditional names for a child? What are your thoughts?
should I bust out a child?
No, you can't give them away.
That's true, I can't. There's a list of names we're going to give our children.
We've gone with unique names, but not unique spelling.
Okay.
You know how some people will spell, like, Sarah with, like, a Charea, like weird white people problems.
Dana. She's white, everybody.
Yes, I'm white. It's okay. But we've gone off of, like, we made this list probably, like, when we first started dating, like, forever ago. You can share one or two. She has them busted out.
I do have them busted out. I would say the most, like, I should say this one.
Yeah.
Harrison Buzz.
Oh, no, that one's boring.
Okay, Andy Carl.
What'd you say?
Richie?
Andy Carl?
We like Olivia Bell. That one's our favorite.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, Olivia Bell. That's very, like, flowy.
Right.
Yeah,
I
we
like
have a lot of them based off of Disney characters.
Yeah.
I love that. That's great. I only have one child's name picked out for my future. So if I have a boy, like, they're screwed because I have not thought of a name for them. But the only name that I've ever thought of for a child of mine would be, if I had a girl, I would want to name her Catalina Marie.
Oh, that's pretty.
Just because it just sounds so pretty. And then, like, my middle name is Marie. I mean, everybody in the world's middle name is Marie. I feel like it.
That's true.
Mine's Renee. That's the second couple.
But it just flows, and I just love the name Catalina. But it has to be said with like an accent, because I don't know, it sounds weird, just Catalina.
Catalina
Port. That's like a street fire.
Like, whenever I hear it, Catalina, I just think of the Catalina wine mixer from Step Brothers.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I know. And your poor name, Eileen, I'm sure.
Come on, Eileen.
Yes, like all the time. You have to be careful not to do that to your children.
But I love the idea of, like, unique names, but just not, like, super abstract names. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just,
I like old people names, like
Harrison.
And Walter.
I don't think Harrison sounds like an old person name. Walter does, but Harrison doesn't.
Because we're gonna call him Wally.
Yeah.
That is cute, though.
There was, oh god, yes. I just like their names. I like old people names.
All right. Well, ladies, that brings us to the end of the podcast. Do you guys have any final remarks you would like to share with the world? Anything you kind of want to promote or anything like that to the world?
Stay home so that we can go back out soon.
Agreed. If you're listening to this and it's still happening, stay home.
Yeah. And then go to Seaworld after, because I don't want Seaworld to disappear.
Yep.
Honestly, go to, like, your SeaWorld, go to aquariums, go to zoos, like, go to all those nonprofits that have literally been losing money during this time.
Just don't go to the aquarium here.
Oh yeah, do not. I will I will definitely speak my mind on that. Do not visit the San Antonio Aquarium. Do not. Do not.
Go to the Witty.
Yeah, go to all other places except that place. As much as I love marine animals, I despise that place.
I want to go just to see what everybody's...
No, you'll get that money.
No, girl, I almost worked for them.
I remember that.
I like all of y'all.
My goodness. Like, oh, that place is sketchy. I don't know how it's still open. And I don't know. That's our TED Talk for today.
Yep.
Stay home and do not go to the aquarium.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening. Thank you, Dana and Sarah, for joining me on this episode. Y'all can listen.
Thank you for inviting us.
Of course. Y'all can listen to wherever you listen to your to this podcast, Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, wherever you get it. You can follow on Facebook and on YouTube. I have some vlogs out if you want to catch up on those. I did make a TikTok during this pandemic, so you can also find me on there. Yep, that's a shameless plug. And also, what am I doing with my life plug? But yeah, that's it for today, and I will talk to you guys on the next one. Bye!